Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for today's presentation about housing and residence life and your students' move-in experience. My name is Meredith Call, and I serve as the Director for Off-Campus Engagement and Off-Campus Student and Family Engagement here at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. So I'm so excited to be able to welcome all of our family members to learn a little bit more about this upcoming experience that your student is going to have living in our on-campus residential communities. I want to share with you a little bit of information about the function of how today's session will go. For our family members, we want this to be an interactive and engaging presentation. We want you to be able to ask questions and get the things that you need answered related to your students' personal experience. And so in order to do that, we've got that question and answer feature down at the bottom of your Zoom screen if you're watching us via Zoom, where you can put all your questions in, and we will make sure to ask and present those back to our actual presenter to be able to get those specific questions answered. However, I will say one thing that I do ask is please be careful when you're putting your questions out there to not provide us any type of identifying information about your student, making sure that you're not providing your student's full name or Blazer ID or other identifying information, just for the safety and security of all of our students. If our family members are watching us through the Facebook Live feed, as we are streaming this live as we speak, please feel free to also know that we are monitoring those questions, that feed as well. So if you have questions there, please put your questions into the comments section there, and we'll help to answer those questions live as we go through everything. We will make sure that this presentation is being recorded. We will place this back out on our family's website within the next week or so, once it gets transcribed. But this is meant to be an educational and informative session. Please make sure we're going to try to make sure that we are answering the bigger, broader, general questions for that is applicable to everyone, versus at times some questions may become a little bit too specific or very unique and individualized to a specific student. And so in which case we will follow up with you or provide you opportunities to follow up with us individually afterwards so that we're able to answer your extreme specifics if they are more than just what we can accommodate during this general hour-long presentation. Well, so with all of those statements being said, I want to go ahead and invite our actual presenter from University Housing and Residence Life to come on board. So Dennis Scott, I would like to go ahead and present you to our group and allow you to introduce yourself and be able to share all the great things it is that you think our family members need to know in order to ensure that their students are prepared and ready to start off this fall on a really strong, solid footing.
Awesome. Thanks, Meredith. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dennis Scott, and I serve as the Assistant Director of Residence Life here at UAB. And so kind of as Meredith stated, I have some information that I will share with you all, which is pulling directly from our move-in guide, which has just recently been updated and is on our housing website. And so I'll kind of go over some of that information, and kind of as Meredith alluded to, I want to also make sure that I make time and space to answer the millions of questions that you have to the best of my ability. And so without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we will go ahead and get started. Not that one. Let me go back to the screen. Meredith, can you confirm that it looks good? Hopefully it does.
I can confirm, yes.
Okay, awesome.
Looking great.
So our moving guide is on our website. If you click under future residents, you will scroll down a little bit and you'll see the moving guide. So for those that are near their computer, you can kind of follow along. But this is information just helpful for you for the upcoming move-in experience. So here's our timeline of our housing process. Obviously, we are kind of at the last date, which is August 8th. And so hopefully by now, your student has already received their housing assignment, their roommate information, and the email regarding moving in. Something to note is that students and parent and family members select the date and time when they move in, with a small caveat. So we have move-ins set up between August 17th through the 21st. However, your student may be arriving early because they're maybe in honors, band, going through sorority recruitment, and any of those other auxiliary groups. And so that program coordinator, that faculty member, or that staff member should be in communication with you about what specific dates and times that are applicable to your student. However, if they are not involved in any of those groups, then they can move in on the set between August 17th through the 21st. If your student has not received a housing assignment, know that that third round of assignments will be coming out around August 8th. And so we are encouraging those students that are still waiting for that assignment to continue to check their UAB email. They should not be checking iloveblazers@gmail.com. The official communication is through their UAB email account. And so if they have not been checking that, encouraging them to begin to check their UAB email account, as that is the official means of communication here at UAB. So regarding kind of the residence hall floor plans and pictures, we have several of those items online, and also students have been very crafty with making YouTube clips of their room, so you can kind of have a field day with that. And it just kind of gives you a sample of how the room can be set up. We encourage students to be creative within reason to make it that home feeling, so that way they can decorate it, have all their pictures and things in their room to make it, kind of like home. Something to note is that all of our residence halls do come with heating and air, electricity and water, and we also have a third-party company called Apogee that kind of handles our Wi-Fi and internet. And so they will receive information about that shortly from their RA, their resident assistant, regarding how things are set up. And so that is something to note about how we have the internet set up, because in the residence halls, there's ResNet, and at the institution, while they're walking around campus, they're on UAB Secure. And so there are two different services that we have for Wi-Fi for residential students and just walking around campus. Something to note is we have a Heat Station, which is our free online movie streaming kind of platform. And so it's often students, want to watch movies on the Heat Station. And so there's information that they will receive about watching movies, but we also recognize and understand that some students are using Hulu Plus, Disney Plus, and other platforms to watch that, but that is a service that is provided to our students. And then the other thing that I would also highlight is the laundry swipes. So the way that laundry works is it's $1 to wash, $1 to dry. In essence, students get $6 a week to do laundry for basically 3 loads. We encourage students to obviously wash clothes on a frequent basis. And all the residence halls have laundry facilities either in the main lobby, in the basement, or in the first floor. And so the RA can walk them through where that is. We do not have quarter machines. They all use their UAB ID card to swipe to use the washing machine and the dryer. And just remind your students it's not real money. They can't store all of the money up and then cash out. If they don't use the $6, that $6 just stays there. But if they use it, it resets every Sunday. And so every Sunday they will get a replenishment of funds to do laundry. But that's something that we also want to highlight. And then lastly, one of the things that I would say is we give students the bare necessities in the room. So they have a dresser. You will want to make sure that you have twin extra long sheets. Again, twin extra long. So if you want to make a note on your shopping list to make sure that that is something that you are mindful of when you are going out to get bedding and stuff like that. And then the last thing that I would say when it comes to things in the room, everything that comes in the room stays in the room. We do not have any storage space. If you want to get rid of a dresser or a cabinet or whatever the case may be, everything that comes in the room stays in the room. And our RAs are trained to say no, should you kind of creatively bribe them to say, hey, can you just mysteriously get rid of this dresser? Everything that everything that comes in the room stays in the room. And so this is not an exhaustive list of just some things to kind of think about prior to your arrival to UAB. And so thinking about making sure they have their one card to be able to get out and about around campus. And so that one card is going to allow them to get into the residence halls, dining facilities, athletic events, campus recreation as well, the University Rec Center. And so they can pick that up from the one-stop center, which is located in the Hill Student Center. So that's where they will kind of pick that up, and that's their golden ticket, if you will, to everything on campus. We encourage students to connect with their roommate. And so the emails that the students receive at least has their email address. And so I would encourage you to outreach to them, start having those conversations. We always tell students and parent and family members that conflict is inevitable, right? Apparently, there is a difference between 68 degrees and 69 degrees. And we need to have that conversation so that way we can both live in a very comfortable living environment, but we don't have to be at each other's neck, right? We just have to kind of work through that and compromise. And so one of the things that we also oftentimes hear from parent and family members and students is, my roommate hasn't responded back to their email. Well, some of them may be traveling internationally. They may not be in the habit of checking their UAB email. So don't hold that against them, right? Because there's no law or rule that says they have to respond. We encourage them to respond, but they don't have to. And so being mindful of giving students grace as they are doing things during the summer, and they may not have the time to respond back. But we recognize that we want you all to start building those having those conversations and maybe using some other creative measures to outreach to them. I've already talked about ResNet regarding the Wi-Fi. Something that I would also say is that students are able to have up to 7 devices connected to their account. So they can have their iPhone, their BlackBerry. I don't know if BlackBerries are still a thing, but whatever their item is, tablets and other things, they can bring those to campus, because we know students are coming to us with various gaming consoles, and want to make sure that they are able to do that without kind of clogging up the bandwidth. There's several transportation options for those that are going to wait to explore having a car on campus. And so housing is a separate entity regarding parking and transportation. And so students should have received email from parking regarding signing up and applying for a parking permit, and we try to get them as close to their residence hall as possible. But that is, again, as a separate process regarding parking. And so there's a wealth of information on their website, uab.edu/parking, regarding all the options and amenities that they have for parking, such as their Blazer shuttle that they have for students that need to navigate around campus, and other kind of escort services. And so it has a wealth of information, for you to peruse at your leisure regarding transportation. So one of the things that we've done through COVID is we've had our floor meetings virtually before students get here. So they will receive an email, again, to their UAB email account regarding a floor meeting to kind of go over some policies and procedures before they arrive. And so we encourage students to attend those meetings. They can connect with their fellow floor mates. They'll get a chance to meet their resident assistant and ask questions that they may have. And so they will be receiving communication from their RA within the next 2 weeks about when that meeting will take place. And if for some reason they are not able to make it, they can follow with the RA to get that information that they may have missed. So that is something that to encourage your student to be on the lookout for regarding when that floor meeting will take place. And then lastly, there is a residential onboarding module. And so information, if it hasn't already gone out, will be going out within the next couple of days, just going over some of the policies and procedures as it pertains to living in our residence hall through our platform called Canvas, which is very similar to Blackboard. And so they will automatically be enrolled in that course, and they are required to complete that prior to moving in to the residence hall. And so they will be receiving that information soon regarding how to access it and completing that module. These are just some things to keep in mind, as you're thinking about moving in and getting things ready and stuff like that. So I'm not going to go over everything. I'm just going to hit some of the high points. One of the biggest things is making sure that you have a plan of action for move-in day. Oftentimes we see a lot of parents get kind of disheveled a little bit as phones are not charged, or they're on silent, or they're on vibrate. And so just making sure you have a game plan when you arrive to campus. The way that you may have visited campus during orientation or when you've just been out and about may not look the same. And so there will be traffic maps that will be uploaded soon regarding one-way streets. And so we want to make sure that you're going the right way as it pertains to move-in day, to make sure we can get all of the students in and out in a timely manner based upon traffic patterns and traffic flows. Something also to note is, when they check into their room, they will have 48 hours to complete what we call a room condition report. And so that allows them to assess the room, in addition to the RA having already assessed the room, to see if there are any potential damages and things that may have been inadvertently omitted. And so it's the expectation that they submit that, so that way they can report those things to avoid any potential charges at the end of the year, right? And so if we assess the room and there's no hole in the wall, and they assess the room and there's no hole in the wall, but then in May, somebody Wile E. Coyotes themselves through the door, that's a conversation, right? Because when you checked in, that door wasn't like that. So we're having conversations about, how did this happen? Because someone has to be held accountable for someone kind of going through the front door or a wall or whatever the case may be. And so it's really important that they kind of complete that in that timely fashion to avoid any potential charges on the back end side. Again, I can't stress this enough about checking your UAB email, UAB email. That is the only way that we typically communicate with students. And so they need to get in the habit of doing that, encouraging them to add it on their smartphones and get in the habit of checking it very frequently, because that is the official means of communication. And again, as I just stated, making sure that they are keeping up with completing that residential onboarding module that'll just kind of give them some overall information prior to their arrival here to UAB. So the way that move-in will kind of go, so students kind of when they pull up to the front of their respective hall, or as close as they can get based upon where the drop-off location is, they'll kind of have 20 to 30 minutes to unload their car, and then they're going into the building and kind of beginning the check-in process. There'll be a few stations, we'll check their ID to make sure that they say who they are. We'll give them a building sticker that corresponds to their building, and just kind of going over a few small things, and then they're kind of off to the races and beginning to set up things or whatever. One of the things to know is that it'll be hot, unfortunately. And so they'll just give us exude patience, make sure you're hydrated, and also know that we encourage you, if possible, to take the stairs, because everyone will want to use the elevators, right? And so there will be lines, right? And so we don't want the elevators to break down because there's too many people or whatever the case may be. And so we are encouraging you, if you're on maybe the second or third floor, if you are willing and able to utilize the steps to make it go by a little bit quicker. But we also recognize, if that's not possible, just know that there may be a potential wait to get to the elevators in the respective residence hall. So that's just something to keep in mind. Due to congestion and just making sure we can get folks in and out, we're encouraging 1 to 2 people to kind of help with move in, on the respective day that you are arriving on campus. Again, that just helps with congestion in the residence halls and not having like a whole lot of people. Again, we are encouraging that just to make things a little bit easier for all parties involved. Currently, as of today, there is no mask mandate on campus. That could change as we continue to watch COVID-19. And so again, as of today, there is no mask requirement, but there's always that asterisk because that could change. If that changes, we will communicate that out to students, and I'm sure the institution will also issue out information and guidance as well. But that's just something that we are all monitoring. But again, as of today, there is no requirement to wear masks in the buildings. All the cars will be kind of escorted to the designated parking deck or parking lot area where you'll be able to kind of drop off your car. And so we'll have several tents kind of strategically placed to help you navigate, to help you get to where you need to go based upon the residence hall. But again, please follow the instruction of the staff members regarding where you will need to park your car. Also, if you plan on arriving early, again, please follow the directions and the instructions of that program coordinator, that faculty member, that staff member, as you know, those are the individuals that are kind of spearheading all of those things. And so just make sure that that program coordinator or faculty member is communicating with you respectively regarding your groups as to what the date and the time that they move in, because they may be different. But again, if you're not a part of a group, you will go in during the traditional move-in period time between August 17th and August 21st. This is a list. It is not exhaustive of things to think about regarding bringing items to campus. Again, this is not a holy grail list. It is just some helpful things to think about regarding coming to campus. One of the things that I want to highlight specifically are the things that you should not bring. And so if you kind of look on the bottom right, you'll see things that you are not permitted to bring to residence halls. And so we're encouraging students to leave the toaster ovens, leave the toasters, the Medusa lamps, the fancy light lamps or lights that you get from Target and Walmart that kind of look like an octopus or whatever. Those are not permitted in the residence halls. Something that's also not permitted in the residence halls are candles. We do conduct health and safety inspections to make sure that the rooms that the students are living in are healthy and clean. And so we do those inspections. And if there is a violation, then the RA, the resident advisor, is documenting that student for bringing in that toaster oven, bringing in that open coiled item, such as a George Foreman grill or a deep fryer. They should not be bringing those things home. We should not be bringing those to campus. And so please encourage them to leave those at home. Again, obviously, hopefully this goes without saying, no weapons as well. But again, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just some things to think about. One of the things that we wanted to definitely highlight is renter's insurance. And so UAB encourages students to invest and have options for renter's insurance. For example, if I get bored once I get my clothes out of the dryer and I put it on that sprinkler head and the sprinkler activates, it's my fault because I did that. I can't technically sue UAB because the sprinkler system did what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to activate. And so if a student is found in violation of that, they will go through our student code of conduct and they will be held accountable for that. But if, let's say, your son or daughter's room floods, we are going to ask and make sure that you got renter's insurance. And so we've listed one of the companies that we encourage students and parent and family members to utilize, NSSI. And so that's what we're encouraging you to use, but you may decide that you want to add them to your home renter's insurance based upon your home. That's fine. We just want to make sure that students are covered because if something happens, natural disaster, tornadoes, or whatever the case may be, if it is on behalf of a student, the institution is not liable. And so we want to make that very clear to make sure that you're covered. And so if you have specific questions about that, we encourage you to look at the options through NSSI, and they've got some great kind of packages and deals based upon the amount of insurance that students should be carrying. As it pertains to COVID-19 community standards, again, we are monitoring that, working closely with university officials and our student health department. And so if there needs to be any changes for whatever the reason, we will follow those instructions from our medical professionals, as we are not the experts. And so if that changes, we will manage that expectation, and we will communicate with students and parents and family members, either through our channels via email and also the institution. But it's something that we are very mindful of and encouraging students. There is no requirement to get vaccinated, but we are strongly encouraging students to take that offer and getting that done. And they can upload all of their information through the patient portal through Student Health Services. And so just want to kind of put that out there. There are no kind of COVID requirements that we have, again, as of today, so that may change. And so we will communicate that if we need to pivot and go in another direction. Just some things to know. Again, One Stop Services is the office where they can kind of take care of all of their things: billing, meal plans, financial aid. I'm sure you've heard about dining. We've got dining meal plans. Parking is always important. I talked about that early. And safety and security is really important as well. And so our desks are supervised and staffed 24/7, 365. And so there's several different measures of security that we've got to make sure students are safe. But students have to do their part and not prop doors. And so we do rounds late at night to make sure everyone is safe and sound in their respective residence halls and rooms. And so we need student support in making sure that that expectation is met. Also, to increase safety, we're always encouraging students to walk in pairs, making sure that, if they are going somewhere by themselves, having a buddy system. Hey, I'm going to be going from my residence hall to the library. I'm going to text you when I get there. There is a app called Rave Guardian. And there's information, again, on the screen regarding how that application works. It is something that we're strongly encouraging students and parent and family members to download to kind of track them, late at night if they're going somewhere, wherever the case may be. That is an option as well. And as far as technology, we've got that all covered with ResNet. And so if they have specific questions, concerns, they can definitely outreach to us at studenthousing@uab.edu regarding some of those specific nuanced questions. And then there's just some basic information regarding our offices. So we have two offices. The main housing office, which is in Gold Residence Hall, is where our facilities, our assignments, our billing, and our contract folks work at. And then in McMahon is kind of where the Res Life offices are. So my office is here. This is where they have questions about roommate mediation. They can come to us in addition to the residence life coordinator, but it's kind of more of the Res Life hub that we have in McMahon Hall, which is our newest residence hall. And then there's some other social media things. So Meredith, that concludes my presentation. So I'm happy to turn it over to you, or how we want to go through some of the questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Dennis. So I do know that we've got several questions that have started coming in, and a couple that I'm going to quickly address because I saw them come in and I wanted to actually track down some information for our family members in advance. One was, I know some of our families came to orientation earlier this summer where potentially there was, the student was unable to get their one card because they had run out of some of the materials and supplies, and due to supply chain issues, weren't able to physically issue the student their one card. Those cards are in and ready to be picked up as we speak at this point for our family members. So I know, Dennis, you mentioned that students will have to have their one card in order to move in. So if your student didn't get their one card, I just confirmed with the one card office that those one cards are in. They're ready to be picked up at any point from now until and up until through move in. The one-stop office is where they will pick them up, which again is located in the Hill Student Center. The Hill Student Center is going to be open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. regular hours. And then on that Saturday they will open at 10 a.m. So again, like those one cards are ready to be picked up in case your student has missed that or was unable to pick up their particular one card due to some technological and supply issues that we had here. Those are ready to go. So that's kind of one of the key things I really wanted to highlight and just kind of get that one covered off the line. For our family members that are watching us via Facebook Live, I hope that you please know that you are more than welcome to put any questions or concerns that you have into our chat function there. So I'm now going to kind of start to go back through some of the different questions that we were told or that have come through now. First of all, there are a multitude of different dates or groups that students could be moving in for. Either it's because their student is going to go through sorority recruitment. Maybe their student is coming in for honors, in which case even dependent upon the types of honors or other things. Maybe they're a marching band student, or there's a multiple reasons where our students can come in at different dates and times. For clarity and clarification's sake, I know you said this already, but let's kind of revisit how they find out what is their specific date for their program, who that communication should be specifically coming from, and then what their steps that they need to be following in regards to unique move-in dates or times because of groups that they're a part of.
Right. So I'll just use an example. If I'm in the marching band, my band director or one of their administrative staff members should have communicated directly to them to say, hey, we're excited to welcome you to the Marching Blazer family. Your move-in time is August 15th from 8 to 5. That means that you will follow that direction and check into your residence hall at that specific date and time that they've already allotted. That typically is handled, again, with that program coordinator, director, or whatever the case may be. And so it's really, they are the gatekeepers of that information, as we have folks that work with our assignments team. And so if that has not been communicated, I would encourage that student or parent or family member to outreach to who that lead is to say, hey, do you have a confirmed date and time for insert group? And they should be able to share that specifically with those students. As I know some folks have already gotten information regarding their auxiliary groups and specialty and affinity groups. So that will come from that program chair, director, faculty member, mentor, whoever that person is. They should be communicating directly to their students.
Perfect. Now, if because of those, again, for clarification's sake, well, those students have also received a regular an email from housing about picking their sign up time, meaning so that it could appear
Sure.
that they needed to, they can pick a moving time on August 8th, 17th or later,
right? But
that doesn't match necessarily with when their program time would be.
Right. That program email trumps the sign up move-in email. So if you got an email that says, because it's a standard email, hey, it's time to sign up for move-in, but you're already a part of a group, follow the group email and we can save that time for another student.
Perfect. Okay. I very much wanted to make sure that was very explicitly said, because I know that there's a lot of communication coming out about a variety of different topics to everybody. And I want to make sure we are clarifying as many things as we can. Sure. So speaking of, let's talk about the actual move-in day time, whatever day or date that in time that family members choose. Once they have pulled up to the residence hall, unloaded their vehicle or vehicles, is there a place or space that they're supposed to be going to immediately afterwards for parking? There's a lot of questions about that. Right.
So once they unload, they're going to, after you kind of unload everything, there's going to be staff members that are pointing you to, for example, 16th Street deck. And you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to the 16th Street deck. So there will be multiple staff members there. I don't want to get into the weeds of this hall goes there and stuff like that. Follow the direction of the people in the fancy neon life jackets or reflectors. They will tell you where to go. And so we've kind of got it strategically placed that it will be very hard to get lost. Just follow our instructions. As we're saying, keep going, right? You're following the signs or whatever things that we have to make sure you go to the right place.
Perfect. Dennis, so obviously you've got your signage, you've got these directions on how to pull up, where to park, to start to unload. We've got some experienced family members that have potentially gone through move-in at UAB in previous years or at other institutions that have had experiences about having additional staff or volunteers or students to help with the unloading process. Can you walk us through kind of what that would look like with the newer housing situation move-in process that is established, if there will be assistance available?
Sure. So because now we have kind of spread things out a little bit, we no longer do our cattle call of 1,000 volunteers, because we don't know, we can have 2 people check in on the first day and 500 people check in on the second day, right? And so it's hard to kind of recruit volunteers for the unknown. And so we won't have any volunteers as we've done as a traditional move-in day experience. However, some of those groups that I mentioned, for example, it could be band may have some band members that they've recruited that's on the band program to determine if that will happen. For example, honors, they may have volunteers, but those volunteers are not exclusive to those that we may have recruited. So we won't have this abundance of volunteers as we've done in the past. And so that's another thing that that program coordinator should be confirming. Yes, we will have limited volunteers, and they may have them for a limited time period. They may say we were only able to recruit from 8 to noon, right? Because it's only so much you can do to bribe them with maybe a Chick-fil-A biscuit and some coffee, right? And so those are things that are up to that program coordinator or chair. But we as a department have done a way, unfortunately, we would love to go back to it, but as we expand move-in, it's hard to recruit volunteers when we don't know who's arriving. And so we will not have any of those volunteers as we've done in years previous.
Perfect. There are several questions that have come in about also wanting to know about, so even though there may not be volunteers, are there other ways to help them move these boxes? Meaning, are there dollies, carts, other things to help get those materials out of the car into the room?
Yes, so we will have, again, a limited amount of dollies and laundry carts, and it will be first come, first served. And so I know that you can go to your local, Walmart and Target and buy some fancy, creative little things to kind of help you navigate to get items in a timely fashion without kind of breaking things in the residence halls per se. But we encourage whatever you can bring. That way it's yours and you can kind of manage that is helpful. But we, again, will only have a limited amount of dollies and laundry carts available. And so again, it's first come, first serve. And we have folks that'll be on the wait list. So it's potentially, you could be waiting 30 minutes to an hour per se. And we try to give folks, about 30 minutes, but it's tough trying to manage that and also being customer service minded as well. But we do encourage you to bring whatever you can because that way you're in control and you may not have to worry about it. But it is always a line for those dollies and those laundry carts to get the items in.
Great. I'm trying to make sure I'm getting through. I'm trying to get through the giant continual questions first. Will you actually, this may help a little bit. Do you mind kind of taking us from the moment that they followed the directional sign, they pulled up to the residence hall based around wherever the signs have taken them for move-in, what the steps the students would need to take in order to get to the respective keys, materials, and then start that move-in process? Kind of do a quick walkthrough of that process for us.
Sure, yeah. So the person, my family's coming to help me move in. I get my stuff out of the car. I'm going to be stationed me as a student, I'm going to come in. Hi, I'm Dennis Scott. My room is Blazer Hall 123. Welcome, Dennis. They're going to give me my sticker that corresponds to the building. They're going to give me a little spiel about a few things to kind of think about regarding residing in a residence hall. And there may be another station where they're giving out some information and other packets of information and stuff like that. At that point, there's probably going to be a line because I'm probably going to wait to get on the elevator. And so I kind of have to wait until that line goes down in order for me to get my items in to the residence hall. When you check in at the desk, there's going to be a station where you get your keys. Blazer Hall will have 2 keys, one for the front door, one to the suite door. Gold and McMahon will have just 1 key. And so that's just something to note. And so they'll give them a little key wallet so they can keep up with those items. And then you're off to, getting stuff in your room. And so that's kind of a quick and dirty version of how things go. You'll check in, get the keys, get the information spiel, get your sticker, and then you're going to your room, either on the stairs or the elevator.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now we're starting to get into some of the specifics of things that students can actually bring again. I know you went through that quick list and everything, but there were multiple questions about the ever fabulous and loved air fryers. Is that an option of things that students can bring?
Yes, air fryers are okay. Crock pots are okay. Scentsies are okay. I'm trying to hit some of the things that typically come up. The unfortunate part is every time we try to come up with a list, QVC has dropped something. They're probably going to drop something this weekend. It's really hard for us to keep up with it. So if in the event you are not sure, always ask. Email us at studenthousing@uab.edu, and we will vet that with people to make sure it is an approved appliance so that way it doesn't get confiscated during health and safety inspections.
That is an excellent question on that. Excellent response there on that one. Again, whenever, when in doubt, just
ask.
So I know you mentioned that you hope that people would only keep it to about 2 guests to help them move in. Are there restrictions on, do the guests have to be actively moving, or can they also just have someone, the family member that's here to help them? Do they, and then also taking that a bit further, does the student have to stay in attendance of their with their family member at all time? Or like if there are conflicting components that a student's trying to be in, has to be at a camp at the same time as their family is trying to move them in, can the family stay behind and help move their supplies into their residence hall rooms for them?
Yes, loaded question. I'll try to answer.
I know it is. It is.
Right.
There's a lot happening in that question.
Yeah.
You're right.
So we encourage 1 to 2 people to help move in, and so we recognize some people are going to have multiple people kind of coming in out at the same time. We just say 1 to 2 people that are actively helping folks move in, right? Like we're actively moving, we're actively bringing boxes in, we're actively bringing in the headboard or whatever the case may be. Just because it'll get very congested in our residence halls. And so we want to just make sure that folks are kind of being mindful of that. So that way it's just a lot of people. And so we recognize it's a nice time for everyone to do the photo op, the video clips, and all of the memories and stuff like that. But again, we're just asking if folks can keep it 1 to 2 people. And then once they kind of get moved in and everything is settled, right, like we kind of go up together. And so again, that's something that we are just asking folks to be mindful of.
Great, thank you. Trying to getting all the questions. Regarding there's measurement specifics and then also things like lofting items. Where do family members go to find that particular pieces of information for each of the different types of residence hall rooms or options that exist? So that if we've got questions about everything from dimensions of for curtains to lofting capabilities, or if they want to loft, what they need to do. Again, yes. I know it's a loaded question, but there's a lot of pieces that go along kind of blanket questions.
Yes. So the vast majority of the things that are being asked are on our website. If you go to uab.edu/housing and click on residence hall, we try to put some of the dimensions on there. And so you'll see rates, address, and dimensions. And so it has that information there. Sometimes we get other requests. And so if need be, we can, get those measurements from our facility staff members. When in doubt, if there's something specific, always email us. And then we more than likely will add it to the website, because if you've asked for it, 5 million other people probably are looking for it as well. And so that's something that we can provide regarding that. Regarding lofting, so we utilize a third-party company called Collegiate Bed Lofting. We do not have the human resources to have staff to set those up. And so we use a third-party company. And the way that it works is there's a fee. I don't remember the specific fee regarding it, but there's a fee that you pay to have it lofted. And so they would have it set up by your move-in time, and then you would leave it just like that. And then they will take it down or remove it at the end of the academic year. Again, the name of that company is called Collegiate Bed Lofting. And so there's a third-party company that we work with. They have it set up. They have a list of students. They go knock out those rooms, and that's it. Really easy.
Say the name one more time for us.
Sure. And I'm also looking at the website, Collegiate Bed Lofting. And if I can find the link.
Put that into the chat for everyone to get. And then Dennis, I'll let you, when you find the website, put the website in there for them as well. And going into the chat function for those of us that have joined us via Zoom. I'll also make sure that we put the link to all of the housing move-in guides and everything else in that same Zoom link as a reminder, or in that same chat. As a reminder, any information that has been placed in those chats, please make sure that you go out and copy those websites down before the end of the presentation today. Otherwise, that information will go away.
Meredith, I don't have the option to browse.
Okay, if you send it to me, I will make sure to get it. I'll send it out to them.
Gotcha. Okay.
We will get it to everybody.
Gotcha.
So what happens if they've moved their student in, but then they realize that they need six new things from the local Target, Walmart, other big box stores, etc. What is the process if they need to bring additional items back after they have come through their move-in date, time, etc.?
Right. Once they get checked in and they've got their keys and their sticker, they can come and go as they please, right? Your checkout process is complete basically once you kind of get your keys and all of those things. And so you can kind of come in and out unlimited, if you will. As we know, students are going to be going to Target and Walmart and other of those departmental stores to get that last minute shower caddy or whatever the case may be. And so you just kind of go in. We'll have staff that are going to be looking for that sticker. So make sure that you are showing that ID card to make sure that you are a resident that goes in the building. It will be a little crazy. So sorry if they get a little like, hey, just let me see your ID. That just, again, is safety and security. We're in downtown Birmingham. We want to be mindful of making sure everyone is safe and secure in the residence halls.
Yes, we will need. Yes, you'll need to do that.
And I just posted the moving guide as well.
Perfect. I'm trying to get all of these things down there.
I know I saw a question and I could answer one about room changes.
Perfect. About which one?
There's something about room changes or like.
Yes, there's a question about room changes in that process.
So one of the things that we know is that room changes are an option should student, they find out that they don't like Johnny from Vestavia High School and they used to kick it every Friday night going to the football games. We recognize that, we get that. We just ask students to make sure that they have the conversation with their roommate. 9 times out of 10, the roommate doesn't even know it's an issue because they never talk to them or they never have the conversation. If they go through the process of trying to mediate, and going through that process and it's still not working, there is an opportunity for them to go through what we call as a room change meeting. And so after the 2nd or 3rd week of classes, there will be flyers posted. Students have the ability to go to a room change meeting. Going to a room change meeting does not guarantee you that you will be approved for a room change. It's kind of like when I go to Atlanta and I go to the gas station and play the lottery, I'm not guaranteed to win the Mega Millions. I'm going for a chance to win. And it's the same analogy with the room change process, because they may say, yes, I'm in gold and I really want to go to McMahon. That requires a room in McMahon to be available. And there may not be a room in McMahon. So if students are limiting their options, that's going to put them in a little bit of a pickle because we may have a goal, we may have a room in Blazer, but you indicated on your form that you only want McMahon. So they kind of have to have a choice and be mindful of, their options. And so there is an option after the 2nd or 3rd week to go through the room change process if space is available. It is not guaranteed that they will be approved. They will get the information. We kind of do some things on the back end side and stuff like that. Just because a student sees that a room is vacant doesn't mean that it's actually vacant. We have a lot of students that move in after the first day of class and we don't want to cancel their housing contract because that's not fair to them. And so we need to give them time and do our due diligence to make sure that if they really are not showing up, that we've had that conversation. So just because they just see an empty room, don't assume that it's just a room that's empty. It's probably a reason why.
Perfect. I have seen just a quick answer to a lot of questions that are coming through about, there's a lot of questions about when the dining plans and meal plans will start to go into effect. Those will all start on August 17th. So all meal plan, dining dollars, all of those things will go into effect starting on the main move-in day of August 17th, and then will remain active through the entire academic semester. Just to make sure that everybody has gotten that one question. Dennis, I will say that there is on looking for dimensions or specifics about McMahon Hall. There's a statement out there that says it's coming soon.
Yes, we are updating that, but you can use the same dimensions as Gold. It's literally the same building. So if you pop over to Gold, it's the same dimensions. Gold and McMahon are synonymous with each other. So we will get that updated. But again, if you're in McMahon, utilize Gold Hall. That would be a great resource.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm trying to make sure again. Interesting things like shower rods. Is that an included item, or is that an item that they would need to bring? Is it dependent upon building?
It's a great question. You would think I would know this. I believe the shower rods are already in the room. I'm drawing a blank. I've been in rooms all year, it feels like, but I think those are in the rooms. I will say that if you look at the YouTube clip videos out there, you'll probably see them. But I believe that the shower rods are already there. You don't have to go out and buy those specific things.
Perfect. Again, for McMahon Hall, just as a reminder, as he said, go out and look at anything related to gold and you will have the same dimensions. Let's talk a little bit for just a second about once the student has moved in and the families are ready to start sending them, and the student's forgotten something at home, or family wants to send a card, or maybe even a little bit more and they want to send a package. What is the process, and how do family members know the student's mailing address, box information, anything like that?
Yes, and I'm also going to put this information in the chat.
Perfect.
So we do have information on our housing website about packages that won't be able to fit in their traditional mailbox in their residence hall. And I just posted that information. And so our package room hours are listed on our website. Regarding the hours they can pick up packages, and they can also look at each of the residence halls that they are residing, and it already has the information about how to address the package. Please, 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 please do yourself a favor and utilize the mailing addresses that we have provided. We oftentimes have folks that will use the university address, and by the time it gets to us, it's 2 months after the fact. We are a big enterprise, and so if you can make sure that they are addressing it appropriately, it will get to your student in a quicker time fashion. And so sometimes it takes a while if they're not utilizing that mailing address, so that way it goes specifically to them. Also, when it comes to Amazon Prime and all of those fancy things and checks and textbooks and all of those things, just because it says that it's here doesn't mean that it's been scanned in. We are starting to get influx of stuff in our package room, and we also have staff that have to manually scan all of those packages in. Once that package is scanned, that lets the student know that the package is ready for pickup. If they do not receive an email from our office, that means the package is not in that Blazer Hall package room. And it's something that sometimes students like, hey, it says it's here. And it could be amongst all the other packages. It just has not been logged. And so giving us that time to get through all of that at the beginning of the semester is super appreciated, because everyone is trying to order their fancy outfits or textbooks or whatever the case may be. Just give us some time as they're trying to work as quickly as they can, and they will get that email. But if they don't get that email, stopping by every day does not expedite the process.
That's fair. And I've seen that package room, y'all. It is very efficient and it is very busy, and I've also seen that as soon as that, they do truly send that email communication to your students. But again, your student needs to go, you need to go and look at the housing website, because in some cases it is the same as the student's residence hall room number. In another residence halls, it is slightly different. So it is very important to go out and pay attention to what is out there on that housing website. And then it's also in the student's housing information, correct? If they were to log in and see the My Housing information and the room assignments and everything, their mailing address information is right there for them as well. So make sure that they share that screenshot with you too. Just tips and things that I've learned over the years of talking to family members and their students. Dennis, can you talk to us a little bit? We are still in a time where there are things like COVID running around, and what are the quarantine policies and things if a student does and policies for an individual who does test positive and or their respective roommates and such.
Wow, that could be a separate webinar, but here we go.
Right.
So
as quickly as
right, I got you. So the way that our kind of isolation, I'm going to use intentional language. Isolation means that they tested positive. quarantine means that they have potentially been exposed. And so I want to make sure that we delineate the two. Again, isolation, confirmed positive, quarantine, exposure. And so should someone test positive, they will have two options. Either they are going home, if that's an option, or they will isolate in another residence hall on campus that we have identified spaces for should they not be able to go home or they're in extenuating circumstance. We also do deliver meals to the students for those that want it. A lot of students will just kind of bring snacks over to get them through. And so that is an option. They can use their dining meal plan and we deliver meals to those students that request it. One of the things that I will say, hopefully not to confuse folks, is there's two clearances. And this is all through student health, right? Housing is not clearing students. So the way that it works is they will get a clearance that says that they can go to class. And then there's a clearance that says that they can come back to the residence hall. And you may be wondering why there are two different clearances. We know that students more than likely will wear a mask while they're in class, but we also know that students will likely not wear a mask in their room. So that's why, for the safety and security of the students and others, that's why there's two different clearances that we have. And that's all communicated to the student via email. Again, housing and residence life is not clearing students. If they say, hey, I'm feeling fine, we will direct them to student health. Student health makes that determination as they're the medical experts. But know that we do have isolation space should someone test positive. And the thing that we're encouraging students is when they have symptoms or if they do test positive, and they can get tested either on campus in student health services, they can go to Walgreens, they can go to CVS, wherever the case may be. Once they get those results, if it's positive, it's their responsibility to upload that positive results through the patient portal. We won't know if they don't upload that information.
Perfect. Dennis, this is going to be a super specific one, and I'm going to try to see if that maybe the best way is to contact them afterwards. If an individual is off at candidate training or they're going through, they're unable to move in during their respective move-in date because they are off doing military type training and preparation work, is anyone able in their family to come and move them in advance, or do they have to wait until does it have to wait until the student has returned from training?
Sure. In that case, we would ask that the student send us an email requesting an exception to be made and listing who that person or persons, plural, would be doing that. So that way we've got consent from the student to say, yes, John and Sally are permitted to move my items in, and we can verify that information. Obviously, we don't want to just assume that, anybody can willy-nilly come up and do that, but just being specific in that request. And then our housing staff members will respond back and pass that along to the residence life coordinator in the building, who will have that documentation ready. So that way we know that this has been approved. But just sending us that information whenever they're trying to move in with those individuals listed, and we're happy to provide that accommodation.
Perfect. I may have accidentally brought this one up, but while we talked about shower rods, what about shower curtains? That is not provided, correct?
Correct. No. We encourage students to bring their creative SpongeBob is what I used when I was in undergrad to come to campus, so they can bring whatever their heart desires.
Trying to make sure that I get all of the big broad things. So no, we were rapidly getting to the end. Oh, command strips and bed risers. Are those things accessible and able to be used in the residence halls?
So we highly encourage students and parent and family members not to use command strips. I know that they have beautiful commercials. The challenge with is that everyone claims to be an expert in removing them. And then when you remove them, then it chips the paint. And when you chip the paint, that's a potential cost. And so we encourage students to use the silly putty. It's a silly kind of substance that's a little bit easier. It's kind of like literally like Play-Doh to use in the residence halls.
Sticky stuff from school.
Yes. Utilizing that. Bed risers, had those when I was in undergrad too. Students are able to bring them if they want, but it's really their choice. There's nothing that says that they can't. have them, but if they want to, they can. And so we encourage students to be super creative with setting up their space and making sure it's kind of homey-like.
Great. And again, for others that are interested in about making shifts, maybe from honors to non-honors or non-honors to honors and things along those lines, anything along those points at this time are going to have to wait until the roommates. That's not the right word. The room change
Meetings.
option in meeting that's 2 weeks after the start of classes, correct?
Correct.
So room assignments as they have been given are to very clearly state again, are going to hold true for students to move in starting on the 17th or dependent upon whatever date that they were given for another group. And then it's after the start of classes that they would be able to potentially make changes.
Correct.
Perfect. I think that has been the vast majority, we've been able to get the vast majority of these questions answered as far as getting everything else. If they come up with it, as we all know, questions occur as soon as we get off this. There's going to be something's going to come up, and I should have meant to, wish I would have asked, and all of those things. What is the best way for family members and students to reach out to get those additional questions or concerns answered? Besides, obviously, for all of our families and students to know, please know that you can also contact off-campus student and family engagement. That family engagement part is the part that's hosting today's presentation. And our information is right behind me. Please feel free to reach out to our office with anything. We clearly have a good relationship with housing. I'm happy to help in any way that we can. But from the housing perspective, what would you like them to do?
Yes, utilize student housing at uab.edu. I would ask that you all give us grace as our inbox has imploded for various questions and requests. So just give us some time, give us some grace. As if you've got 101 questions, we've got a million other folks that are also asking those questions as well. And so we will get back to you and reply as soon as possible, but know that we've got multiple people checking that inbox and monitoring that. So just give us a little bit of time. And that also goes for calling our offices as well. So we were getting hit from the email and the phone and direct messages. So we are trying to be as inclusive as all possible regarding answering questions.
Perfect. Again, just some of those last minute things for your students. They should make sure that they should have received an information to their UAB email address. That is going to be the key things that your student, key component, that way we're going to communicate with your student. And then additional communication and information. We have put up several different links and helpful tips and emails and things like that in the chat function of this Zoom. So I would highly suggest that you take a second, families, and grab those key links for you and to save, because once we end the webinar, those will go away. And then again, for checking those emails, make sure that you can pick your date and time. If your student is coming in outside of in a specialized program or going through a unique experience like band recruitment, they're part of the honors program or others, that information should be coming directly from those particular programs, and that information supersedes the email about move-in date and time that you would also get from housing. So that is going to be the one to follow. But just again, everything should be communicated with you through your UAB email address. Dennis, are there any that have not received that email yet? To any emails that have not gone out respectively to those email addresses?
Say that one more time.
Have there been cases of any students that you're still waiting to send out that pick your move-in date and time to email addresses yet, or has all emails been sent?
All emails have been sent. Some students, I don't know if this may have happened, but some students, you may have to check your junk folder. I don't know why it would go to junk, but maybe checking the junk folder, as some internet providers get very wonky, so they may have to check that. If for some reason there is an inadvertent error, please outreach to us, right? We make mistakes. We want to make sure that we give the students the correct information. So if you have not, simply outreach to us and we're happy to resend that. As we know, technology sometimes fails.
Yes. Perfect. Well, Dennis, thank you so much for taking time today. I know we can continue to ask all sorts of different questions and things throughout the day as we go forward. But I really do appreciate you taking the time to, especially as I know that you are busy getting them prepared, training our students so that they are successful RAs and everything on for everybody. But I do appreciate your time and all of your helpful answers and everything. And I hope that you all have a wonderful, to our families, thank you for taking the date and time to chat with us. And if there are additional things that we can help answer, please reach out to us afterwards. But we have absolutely exceeded our 1 hour window. And I want to respect the time of our presenters as well as everyone else in this presentation. So I just want to say thank you so much. Again, reach out to us as best for anyone that needs it. We are here to help. And I thank you for spending the time. And families, we cannot wait to see you or your student within the next couple of weeks. So come by and see us all. We really are here to help and support in every way possible. So
if you really love us,
everyone. Yes. Thank you so much to everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your Friday and a great weekend ahead.
Bye, everyone. Go Blazers.
Go Blazers.